Welcome to SVR IAS Academy. ComeOnIndia.com is our website. In this environment and ecology online video lecture, we will learn about food chain and food web and comparing both of them. The topic is very important for prelims examination. So let's start the video lecture and discuss the points one by one. What do you mean by food chain? Food chain indicates how each living things gets its food. Each living thing, whether plant or animals, how they get its food. Because some plants eat, some animals eat the plants and some animal eats other animals. So how to define food chain? So food chain is nothing but it shows the feeding relationship between living animals and plants. Feeding relationship between living things. So each link in the food chain becomes food for next link. For example, producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. It is a food chain. Here, producer becomes the food of next link, that is primary consumer. Another important point is that food chain always starts with the plant life and food chain always ends with the animal life. In the food chain, plants are called as producers because plants use the light energy from the sun and produce its food called as sugar by using carbon dioxide and water. This process is called as photosynthesis by using the structure called as chlorophyll that we already discussed in our earlier video lecture. What about animals? Animals cannot make their own food. So animals gets their energy by eating plants. Some animals may eat other animals as well. So there are one side producers, there are plant, on the other side consumers. We can divide a consumer into primary consumers, secondary consumer and tertiary consumers. Animals that eat only plants are called as primary consumer or herbivore. So animals that eat only plants are called as herbivores or primary consumers. Animals that eat other animals are called as carnivores. Carnivores that eat herbivores called as secondary consumer. Carnivore that eat other carnivore is called as tertiary consumer. So this classification is important to understand. Let's make it simple further. Here, one side the producer, no problem. On other side consumer. So animal that eats producer or plant called as herbivore. It is the primary consumer. So here animal that eats herbivore is called as secondary consumer, and some animals which eats other carnivore animal are called as tertiary consumer. So understand each and everything thoroughly. For example, look at the killer whale in the ocean food chain. Phytoplankton is the producer. Small fishes are herbivores or primary consumer. Seal, which eats herbivore, is a secondary consumer, and killer whales are the tertiary consumers in the ocean food chain. Animals and people, we eat both plants and animals are known as omnivores. Omnivores means animals which eat both plants and animals. Decomposer means it includes bacteria and fungi. Decomposer means it includes both bacteria and fungi which feed on the decaying matter, dead bodies, dead animals which will be decomposed by decomposers, and complex matters are decomposed into the simple matter, then it will be reutilized by plants and animals once again. If you look at the world around us, we can see there are more number of herbivores than carnivores. Why it is so? The important point you should know in the food chain is that when you move from one food chain to one trophic level to another trophic level in a food chain, only 10% of the energy gets transmitted, remaining 90% of energy is wasted. It limits the length of the food chain. Normally, food chain may have 4 to 5 trophic level, not beyond that. So, in the food chain, energy is passed from one link to the another link. From the herbivore, only small fraction of energy goes to the secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. And another important point is that there cannot be too many links in the single food chain. There may be hardly 4 to 5 links in the food chain. Just look at the image. In this image, you can understand about food chain and food web thoroughly. On the right side of the image, you can see a typical food chain. Here, 4 to 5 links are there from producer, primary consumer, secondary, tertiary and quaternary consumer. Usually 4 links will be there. In some food chains, 5 links may be there. At any cost, not beyond 5. Look at the food web. In the food web, one animal eats many food sources and is eaten by many animals. For example, in this image, take the squid. It is eaten by marlins, small sharks, tuna, mackerel. So, one animal is eaten by many and it also eats many small animals. It's a concept behind food web. So, most of the animals are part of more than one food chain and eat more than one kind of food in order to survive and get its energy requirement. These kind of interconnected food chains form food web. So, food web is nothing but interconnected food chains. Change in the population of animal in a particular food chain affects other population as well, because food chains are interdependent in nature. For example, take a food chain. Grass is eaten by zebras. Zebras are eaten by lions. If only 2 zebra number is low, means grass population will increase disproportionately. If zebra population is low, means lion population will also come down. On the other side, if zebra population is high, means number of lion population will also increase, and which in turn zebra eat more grass, so grass population will come down. It is an interconnected nature of food chain. So there's a need for fine balance or equilibrium in the food chain. Food production will be maximum and efficient if food chain is short. If food chain length is big, means one level, trophic 2 level, third link, fourth link, fifth link, means only 10% of the energy is transmitted from one link to the another link. So if you go to the higher level, only less energy will be available. So food production and usage is less efficient. To be more efficient, food chain link should be small. So far you understood about the concept of food chain and food web. Now let's compare both of them. Food chain is nothing but a single straight pathway through which food energy passes, whereas food web is nothing but a number of interconnected food chains through which food energy passes. Example for food chain is like that. Example for the food web is like that, in direction. So in food chain only one food chain is there, whereas in the food web there are so many number of food chains which are interconnected. In food chain, members of the higher trophic level usually feed upon single type of organism in the lower trophic level. Consider this as a food chain. Members of the higher trophic level, the animals which are located in the higher trophic level feed upon single lower animals, whereas in the food web, animals of the higher trophic level feed upon many organisms in the lower trophic level. So choices are more in the food web. Food chain increases the instability of ecosystem because food choices are less. So food chain increases the instability of ecosystem, whereas food webs increases the stability of ecosystem. So animal gets so many choices for its food in the food web. So food web increases the stability of ecosystem. Complex food webs improves the adaptability and competitiveness of organisms. So these are the important points you should remember when comparing the food chain and food web. Thank you for watching this video lecture and all the best.